Good morning, my dear students. Today we shall discuss on a short story, The Selfish Giant, written by Oscar Wilde. It has been prescribed for UG's semester 6 student in paper 13. The most allegorical essay, short story or essay, The Selfish Giant, has been written by Oscar Wilde. It is a fine theme of Christianity. Through this story, the writer gives a Christian morality. Oscar Wilde's The Selfish Giant is a beautiful allegorical tale meant to delight as well as instruct. In a simple moral tale, Oscar Wilde has conveyed his strong religious feelings and deep understanding of what is beautiful in nature. There was a certain giant's garden. The giant had been to visit his friend, the Cornish ogre, and has stayed with him for 7 years. In his absence, the children used to go and play in his garden. It was a large, lovely garden with soft green grass. Here and there, over the grass, stood beautiful flowers like stars. The birds sat on the trees and sang sweetly. After 7 years, when he returned to his own castle, he saw the children playing in the garden. He made them run away from the garden and said that it was his own garden. Nobody would be allowed to play in it but himself. Virtually, he was a very selfish giant. He put a board there in which he has written, I quote, "Trespassers would be prosecuted." This was the notice board he put on the gate of the garden. The children were very unhappy seeing all these things made by the giant. They had now nowhere to play. Spring had forgotten this garden. The birds did not care to sing. The trees forgot to blossom. The only people who were pleased were the snow and the frost. They invited the north wind to stay with them, and he came. There was winter everywhere. One morning, The giant was lying awake in bed when he heard some lovely music. It sounded so sweet to his ears that he thought it must be the king's musician passing by. But it was really only a little linnet singing outside the window. The giant saw a most wonderful sight. The children had crept in the garden through a little hole in the wall, and they were sitting in the branches of the trees. The trees were so glad to have the children back again that they had covered themselves with delight. The flowers were looking up through the garden grass and laughing. It was a lovely scene. Only in one corner it was still winter, where there was a little boy was sitting there. He was so small that he could not reach up to the branches of the tree, and he was wandering all around, crying bitterly. The giant's heart melted as he looked out. He put the little child on the top of the tree. The tree broke at once into blossoms. The birds came and sang on it. The little boy hung his arms round the giant's neck and kissed him. The giant knocked down the wall. The children came running back. They played with him, but the little boy whom the giant loved was never seen again. He was very kind to all the children, yet he longed for his first little friend. He grew very old and feeble. One day he saw that the little boy's hands were the prints of 2 nails, and the prints of 2 nails were on the little feet. He asked the little boy, "Who hath dared to wound thee?" The child said that these were the wounds of love. The child asked the giant to let him play once in his garden today, and told him that he would go to my garden, that is paradise. Next day, in the afternoon, the children found the giant lying dead under the tree, all covered with white blossoms. Thus we see that in the beginning of the story, the giant was so selfish that he strictly prohibited the children to play in his garden. As there were no children in the giant's garden, they forgot to please him. The only people who were pleased were the snow and the frost. The giant was very sad to know that it was winter throughout the year. After a very long time, he saw a wonderful sight. A little child along with his little friends came in his garden, and there was spring in it. There were blossoms and birds. He was really very sorry for what he had done. He allowed the children to play in his garden. Among the children There was a little child whom he loved most. He was very kind to all the children, yet he longed for his first little friend and often spoke of him. One day he showed the little child his palms were the prints of 2 nails, and the prints of 2 nails were on the little feet. The giant was very angry to see this pitiable sight. He asked the name of the offender and the identity of the child. And the child smiled on the giant and said that it was the giant's love that he had allowed the children to play in the garden. It is God's love that allows men to play in this heaven. It is paradise. So, we can say that the story, the selfish giant, is full of Christian values, Christian morality.